Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I'm going to take you along with me and see what there is to harvest in my food forest. Now we're just going to be harvesting the fruits. There's not going to be a ton, but there is a lot of promise for later harvests, and there is some that I can snack on today. Now there's not a ton because I've been snacking on everything a lot, and also my kids were here a couple of days ago and we stripped pretty much everything bare. But there is more to harvest, and there's some things that I was a little surprised about. So let's go see what fruit there is to harvest in my forest today. Now before we head out, I just wanted to let you know I live in Utah, zone 6/7. Most of our winters are zone 6, but the last 5 winters have been a zone 7. So, I know things are getting warmer, but there is possibilities of zone 6 winters, and there's even possibilities of zone 5. I've lived here for 15 years and have seen one zone 5 winter where it got negative, I think it was like 15 degrees. Most of the time it doesn't get below 0 here though. So let me show you what I'm growing and show you the harvest that we're finding. Now the first thing I wanted to show you was a surprise to me. I have been planting roselle that I have been growing outdoors and indoors for for several years now. Now the reason I've been doing it is the first year I planted it, I grew it outdoors and it started to flower in September just before our first fall frost. I saw the frost coming on the weather app, and so what I did is I took some cuttings, brought them inside to overwinter them for the next year. And then in December, and I'll link a video up above, in December that flowered and we got the roselle calyxes. Now these really fleshy things are calyxes that are forming around a seed pod in here. It's kind of hard to see the seed pod, but the seed pod is in there. And this is what you use for tea, and it was so delicious. I absolutely loved the roselle. And I've been trying ever since to get it to fruit, and it has not fruited at all. And this year it was going to be, and I was just going to be done with it. I was going to throw away this plant at the end of the year if it didn't fruit and just be done. But this is August, and look how many I've harvested. Let me see if we can find a flower on it, because I got excited and harvested these all before I videoed. But let me show you the flowers on it. So I'm not seeing any flowers, but this is in a pot. You can see this is in a pot. This is a cutting I took last fall, overwintered it inside my house, and then brought it out in the spring because it had not done anything. It didn't look like it was going to do anything. So I was just leaving it outdoors all summer. This is what the buds look like. So the buds start out as these little tiny dots inside here. The flower already closed up that I just saw a little bit earlier. This is one that flowered. This is the last one that flowered, and it's going to be turning into the calyx that I showed you up on my deck, and then we're going to get the fruit. So the calyx is the fruit. When it gets big and thick, it's when it's edible. And we've got several more flowers. So my saga to grow roselle is not over. I think I will continue to do this, continue to take cuttings, bring it in over the winter, and then see what happens the next spring and summer. So I'm really excited. We've got quite a few on here. And actually even the leaves are edible. So let's go and see what else there is to harvest. Now this is my little shady area underneath my jujube tree. You can't see them right now, but up at the top there's quite a bit of fruit set. We have a couple of them actually right here, down lower. So these jujube fruits will be ready to harvest in October, so we've got that hope coming. But look under here. This is a gooseberry. I had assumed this gooseberry was an Invictus because that's what I'd ordered. But an Invictus gooseberry is green and it ripens in June. This is August. It's just starting to ripen. And they're obviously not green. So I don't know what the variety of this is. And it doesn't have the same flavor as the Invictus. It's kind of a milder flavor, but it's not too tart, and it does actually taste pretty good, so we'll keep it. So we're harvesting gooseberries. And it's very interesting. Most of these are ripe, but not all of them are ripe. So it's very slow ripening. Like I said, this is August. And they don't all ripen at the same time. So we'll just take what's ripe. The other thing about gooseberries is they have wicked thorns. So you've got to be really careful. Now it's this gooseberry's second year, so this is about all I've gotten off of it so far. Let's go see what else there is to harvest. Now on the way past, we've got to check my pluots. These are Dapple Dandy pluots, and they're definitely getting close. This little tiny one's starting to change color. They don't change all the way purple. They're kind of a mottled light purple with a lot of green in it when they're ripe. But we've got a few on here, so we can't harvest these yet, but we're getting ready. We're almost there. Now over here, we've got a bunch of fallen pears. When the pears start to fall, that means they're starting to get ripe. All of those kind of have a few yucky things on it. Got a little spider coming up here. So I'm just saving those for the trash. But what I do when I harvest pears, especially when they first start getting ripe, is I look for a little bit of a color change. This one is still really green. They're all still really green looking. They'll stay green, but when you lift them slightly like this, they'll snap right off. Then you have to put them inside. To ripen on the counter. I have several on the counter. They're not ripening yet, so I still think this is just a tiny bit early to have really ripe pears. So here's one that has a little bit of a color change, and it snapped right off. So we'll put this one on the counter and see how it does. Now I have apples, but the apples are not really close. My Jonagold, my September Wonder Fuji are usually the first to be harvested, and those are generally ready the end of September, near October. And the same with my Jonagold. So we're not even going to look at those. And besides, it's an off year for apple production this year, so I only have a few on the tree. Now this is a new one. This is a North Pole, and I know it ripens earlier, but it's still got quite a green look to it, so I don't think it's quite ready yet. I only allowed 3 to stay on this tree because it's a 3-year-old tree, and I want it to be able to develop its roots first. Next year, I might let it develop some more. Now here's another one I've been waiting on that I'm really, really excited about. My very, very first fig, the only one that's even close at all. Now this is a Ronde Bordeaux, and you can tell it's ripe because the color has changed. Here's some unripe figs. They're green, kind of with a little bit of a purplish color, and they're standing straight up. This one right here is dangling and is extremely soft. So we're going to pull that off. There's no latex coming out at the end at all, so we know this is completely ripe. Let's open this up and look what it looks like and taste it. Now there are different flavor profiles for figs, and the Ronde Bordeaux is one of the berry figs. Supposedly it's one of the better tasting berry figs. So look at that. Look how soft and wonderful that looks. I am excited. Let's taste it and see. So last year I had a Ronde Bordeaux, but it was its first year, and it tasted okay, but they say you never judge a fig's flavor by its first year. So let's try it on its second year. Very, very sugary. That was so good. I cannot wait for more figs to harvest. Unfortunately, that was the only one that's even close to being ripe. Most of my other figs are still really tiny, but it's August and we have all the way through September that they can ripen, so I'm really, really hoping that we get some starting to ripen. But that's a harvest that made me really, really happy. So we had one Ronde Bordeaux fig. Let's go see what else there is to harvest. Now I have strawberries in my front yard and in my backyard. I have given the neighbor kids full permission to harvest strawberries in the front yard, and since I've given them permission, I have not seen one berry. And I know we're getting berries because just as I was getting ready to make this video, I actually heard them out front harvesting. So the berries in the front are gone, but the berries in the back are protected by a gate, and these are mine. So we are getting a few more berries. These are the ever-bearing strawberries. I'm not sure which variety these are because I planted a whole bunch from all over the place. But we are getting a few. Most of the really ripe ones got harvested by my kids when they were here. But we did get a couple of strawberries. Now over here is another new one. This is my Triple Crown blackberries. These got picked over really, really well a couple of days ago by my kids. But down here, we've got more berries. Now you can tell when they're ripe because they'll just fall off of the vine. These still have some resistance, except for this one that fell off. But this one got burnt. A lot of these are getting sunburnt, so next year I think I'm going to erect a shade cover over it. See if there's any that are actually ripe. Look at that. It's smaller, but it's perfection. They are so good. This is a Triple Crown blackberry. So I only found a few, but that's enough to snack on. Let's go and see what else we have. Now this is a harvest where we are going to have huge amounts. There are so many grapes in this. I love this. This is a Himrod grape. I think they're all just about at peak ripeness. Let's taste it. Oh yeah. Look at this. Aren't they gorgeous? They're about at peak ripeness, and what I do is I generally harvest these and make raisins out of them. So I usually get about 12 quart freezer bags full of raisins, and then I pretty much give most of them away. I really shouldn't be eating raisins with my diet, or grapes, but these are so, so good. So that harvest, I'll harvest all the rest of them a little bit later. They do hold really well on the vine, so maybe in about a week, I will come out and harvest them and make raisins. Now I'm not sure how many we're going to have left of my gooseberries. I heard the neighborhood kids out harvesting them, and they absolutely have permission to be out here. I think it's really, really important to allow kids to experience these kind of things. So it's worth foregoing a little bit of my gooseberry. It's worth foregoing a bit of my ground cherries so that they can have that experience. But they missed a few. We're starting to get into peak harvesting season. Now we did have a lot of rain, so that one split, and it has a bug in it, so we're going to leave that. Let's see what's down here. There's a perfect one. So there were only a few, but if you remember, I'm out here harvesting every day as well as all the neighborhood children, so this is what was left over. Now let's look over here. We may get lucky here. This one's not ready. These are the Peruvian ground cherries. We've got several that aren't ready here, but I think I saw one somewhere else. So there's a Peruvian ground cherry hiding in here. So this is it right here. And then look what's down here. Just one. I harvested all the rest, and the hot weather, I think, kind of stopped it from producing for a while, and it's starting to produce again. Look at that color and look at the size. Now the difference between the Peruvian ground cherries and your regular ground cherries, which there's one over here, is the regular ground cherries are smaller, and they fall off the vine when they're ripe, and they're a lot smaller. So there's the two right there. Now both types of ground cherries are sweet and delicious, but the Peruvian ground cherry has a more tropical flavor. I kind of likened it to a mix between mango and papaya. I don't really actually like papaya flavor, so it took me a while to get used to the flavor of the Peruvian ground cherries, but now I'm absolutely addicted to them. They will always be in my yard. They're not heavy producers, and you do need to start them really early indoors, so they do have time to ripen, especially if you live in a colder climate. So I absolutely love the ground cherries, but that's not all there is to harvest. Let's go look at my pawpaws and see if there's any ready yet. So this is my Davis pawpaw tree. It ripens in August, and this is the third week in August. We've got full-size fruits, and I am anxiously awaiting. Now, the only way to tell these are ripe is if they fall on the ground. So I've got to wait until they fall on the ground. And I've been out here several times a day scanning the ground, waiting patiently for the first one to fall. They haven't fallen yet, so very shortly here, we're going to have pawpaws. I'm really excited. So we've harvested all the fruits in my lower food forest and my front yard. So let's see what there's left to harvest on my hill here. So we've got several different types of fruits here. Let's look at them and see what we can harvest. Here are my raspberries, and if you've watched my channel for very long, you would know that these raspberries have been on their last leg and I've been ready to rip them out for years. They've had all sorts of different issues. Grasshoppers being one of them on my little grapevine that's encroaching over here. But the biggest issue with them is they burn up on the vine. This is what happens to them before they ripen. Except for we've been blessed to have cooler days the last week, and look what we've got. Ripe raspberries that are not burnt up. They're not gorgeous, but they're not burnt up and they're sweet and delicious. So not a ton, but more than we've gotten in a long time. Let's go see what else there is to harvest. Now I have 5 different types of grapes on my property. And the one that I showed you first is my Himrod, the green one, and that is the first to ripen. This is the third, and they're still a little tart. But this is my Candidus. Not quite ripe yet, but they're so close. They have about a week left. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're absolutely tasty, even when not quite ripe. And they make the best raisins ever. So Himrod was the first of my grapes to ripen. This is the second to ripen. This is a Jupiter grape. Absolutely gorgeous. Kind of a musky flavor, almost a muscadine type grape, but they're still just table grapes, seedless. And these actually hold on the vine longer than any of my other grapes. So what I tend to do is I tend to leave these on the vine until my Concord and my Swenson Red are ripe, which ripen later in the year. And then I use them all as juice. This kind of gives my grape juice just a different flavor. It's a really good, deeper, richer flavor. But look how pretty they are. We've got some plums on the ground. Now, these are Santa Rosa plums. It's a little gushy, but I can cut that area off, and the gushier they are, the tastier they are. Although I guess this one might be a little too gushy. So we'll throw that one away in a little bit. But this one, if we cut off the cracked parts, is perfect. The little hornet thinks that's perfect too. He's kind of drunk now. He's going to go back for more. He's so drunk. This is another one. It's probably too gushy. This one's perfect. They are best once they fall into the ground and when they're really, really soft. So let's see if we have any soft ones up here. That one's pretty soft. So here's a bowl full of goodness. I am really excited about this. This is not enough to preserve. It's just enough to tide me over for another couple of days until I could come out and snack again. Now, I have been preserving. I did come out and do a rather large harvest off my blackberries. I went to a U-pick area and picked a ton of raspberries, mixed those with about 3 gallons worth of strawberries and another 3 gallons of service berries. So I have a ton of jam. I did a no sugar jam recipe, and it was really, really good. So I have a ton of that. We'll be making grapes. The plums are going to be coming in hard here very shortly. Like I said, we've just been harvesting a few at a time, but they're all going to ripen here, and then I think I'll make some plum jam. Blackberries I have in the freezer. This year they're new, so I may not have enough to make any preserves for this year, but I definitely will next year. Figs are going to be coming on. I've got one melon, a topaz melon that I've talked about in the past, and I've got some ancient watermelon that may ripen, and some orange watermelon that I think for sure will ripen. So I've got so much stuff coming in. I'm really excited, and I'd love to encourage you to go out and plant at least one type of fruit. The ground cherries are really, really easy. Strawberries are easy. And when you go out and harvest them and taste them, it's going to give you the desire to go out and try more things. It's really a lot of fun. So definitely go out, even if you do it in a pot. Go out and plant something that you can harvest and eat yourself. It's the most wonderful feeling in the world. And I'd love to hear what you're harvesting if you have fruit in your yard and what your favorite one is. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.